Hell, Commander Nation, how y'all doing? This is your resident pigskin prophet, Freddie Football, and welcome to the spinoff of the Pro Football Chat show. Welcome to my program, the second episode of the Commanders Salute. Once again, I'm Freddie Football. Thank you guys for joining me. Hope you guys had a great weekend. I did. And hey, let's talk some football. So hell, Commanders Nation. Shout out to all you Washington fans out there, guys and girls alike. We're going to talk a little football today, and we're going to have a good time. All right. Welcome to the Commander Salute. If this is your first time watching, please hit that subscribe button. If you have any comments, please share your comments. Would love to hear from you. Show me much love to you. And here we go. All right. What do the Commanders need to do? What do the Commanders need to do in order to win their division in this coming 2022 season? They finished 7-10 last year. They finished in third place behind the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. Cowboys and the Eagles, of course, both went to the playoffs. They were both eliminated. But the Commanders did not make the playoffs. So what do they need to do this year in order to win their division? I think the first thing that they needed to do, which I believe they took care of in free agency, was get a quarterback. Get a quarterback that they can rely on, a quarterback that can throw the ball, that has a strong arm, a quarterback that knows how to make his reads and progressions, a quarterback who knows how to manage the game and win the game for them in clutch situations. And he's gotten a lot of ridicule during this time of free agency, but I believe that Carson Wentz is their guy at quarterback. No disrespect to Taylor Heineke. He did what he did. He played some amazing games while he was in and while he was a starter for Washington. But I believe Carson Wentz is an upgrade over him. And I believe that they may have just found their man at quarterback. So the quarterback position is the most vital, most important position on the field. So by them taking care of that in free agency, I believe that puts them leaps and bounds ahead, and that gives them a chance to win an NFC East division crown this year. They need to bolster their offensive line. Brandon Sheriff, the great all-pro right tackle for Washington, is now gone. He's gone on to Jacksonville. They got Andrew Norwell from Jacksonville, who was an all-pro himself. He was an all-pro guard. He can play different positions, so I believe that this guy, he played 17 games last year for the Jacksonville Jaguars and did a phenomenal job at protecting his quarterback and Trevor Lawrence. He only had 2 penalties. 2 penalties in 17 games. That's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's very disciplined. They picked him up, and I believe that through the draft, they probably should select another lineman to bolster that offensive line and to protect Carson Wentz. And you have to, the Bible, football, excuse me, I said the Bible. God bless you out there. Football is a game of inches, and football is won in the trenches. So having a strong offensive line or defensive line is very, very important, and they're going to have to make sure that they have a strong offensive line this year to be able to control games, to be able to control the ball when they run the ball, to control the defense when they're running the ball. And if you can run the ball, then you can do almost anything in the passing game. Play action pass, screens, crossing routes, whatever. The running game always opens the passing game up. But if you have a strong offensive line, those will win games for you. You will dominate in the trenches. And like I said, football is a game of inches, like down in the goal line, the red zone situations. Having a great offensive line to protect the quarterback in the passing and running game is very, very, very important. And that leads to winning games and possibly playoffs and possibly championships. So the Commanders are going to have to shore up that offensive line. They got the quarterback, whom I believe that will do very well, do a great job, Carson Wentz. Um, the defense, and I'll be talking about the defense in a little bit. The defense is something that the Commanders really need to do this year, because I think about last year when they went to AT&T Stadium and played Dallas, and they pretty much got whitewashed. They got wiped out. The score was 56-14, I believe. And at halftime, the game was already over. It's like 42-7, I think. Um, so there were a lot of gaps, a lot of holes on defense. I know that the COVID situation was still around, but these guys are professionals. So there's no excuse. Um, Today, we're going to look at, before I get into talking about the defense, um, well, let's go ahead and do that. We're going to talk about the defense. And last year, 2021, the Washington then football team ranked 25th in scoring defense. The Super Bowl champion Rams were 10th. The Washington football team, then football team, now are the Commanders. They allowed 25.5 points per game. Um, they played a 4-3 defense, a zone-heavy scheme, and they were absolutely horrible at stopping the pass. And last year, I believe that they're ranked. I think they were ranked. Let's take a look. Passing offense allowed. There were 597 attempts allowed. 400 were complete, which they gave up a 68.3 percentage in the passing game. Not very good. They allowed 4,333 yards on the year. That's 10.8 yards per completion that they gave up. And they gave up 34 touchdowns. And they allowed 254.9 points per game. So they were ranked 29th in passing defense. And that's at the bottom. That's at the bottom of the barrel just about. So basically they were cellar dwellers in that. Red zone attempts allowed 59, and there were 35 red zone touchdowns that they gave up. The red zone percentage was 59.3, where they allowed scoring a touchdown or a field goal from the other team. Their opponent's turnovers, there were 19 total turnovers from the opposition. They only had 11 interceptions last year and 8 fumble recoveries. So that's not a lot of turnovers considering a 17-game season. So basically, all in all, they really didn't do very well on defense. PFF, Pro Football, PFF, ranked Washington's secondary number 19 last year. Kendall Fuller, he played in the slot, but he played better on the outside. Kendall Fuller, he had 98 tackles. No, he had 77 tackles, 13 solo, 1 interception. Cameron Curl in the secondary had 98 tackles, 37 solo. Bobby McCain, he had 4 interceptions and 5 pass breakups. So, free agent signing Free agent signing from last year, William Jackson III. He had an up and down season. He got hurt in his last 3 games. He finished in the top 10 in yards per coverage snap on the outside, which was pretty excellent. But his 5 touchdowns allowed and 8 penalties brought his coverage grade to brought his coverage grade down to 59.5 for the year. Bobby McCain had a 72.6 coverage grade from Pro Football Focus. Um, the defensive line last year, of course, Chase Young was hurt. I think he played about maybe 10 or 11 games. He had 26 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 1.5 sacks. So last year was considered a down year for him after a uh, absolutely awesome rookie year in which he won Defensive Rookie of the Year 2 years ago. Deron Payne had 62 tackles, defensive tackle. Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne make a great defensive front, a strong wall on that defense. Jonathan Allen has 62 tackles, Deron Payne 61, 31 solo tackles by Jonathan Allen. He had 9 sacks. Deron Payne, he had 4.5 sacks. Montez Sweat had 24 tackles, 3 forced fumbles, and 5 sacks. He was hurt for a lot of the year. So that defense is definitely going to need Sweat back healthy and Chase Young. And there wasn't the camaraderie and the bonding of that defense wasn't there at times. That was evidenced in the Dallas game, when Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne got into a shouting match, and then it got a little physical. And you've got to have a bond. You've got to have camaraderie on your team, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, even in the coaching realm. You gotta have that closeness, and you gotta have that brotherhood. And there were frustrations last year, tempers flaring. I understand you lose games. Nobody likes to lose, but that was what was going on last year. So this is a new year. This is a chance for a brand new start. And Washington, they're going to have to really, really take a look at their defense and really, really make a lot of decisions. Some decisions probably tough, but they're going to have to really buckle down this year as far as what they want to do in the defense. Um, the Commanders ranked last of all the 4 NFC teams last year in the secondary. Landon Collins is gone. Cam Curl is now the roster's best safety. So they're pretty much going to have to go back to the drawing board on things. Their defensive line at times played good football last year, and at other times they played horrible. The linebacking core was was so, and their secondary was absolutely horrible. So if they're going to make the playoffs this year, or if they're going to win their division, the Commanders are going to have to vastly improve in their defense. And Jack Del Rio, the defensive coordinator, is really a defensive genius. But I don't know. For some reason, last year they couldn't fit the pieces to the puzzle, and they're going to have to upgrade their defense, and they're going to have to get better if they're going to make the playoffs, let alone win a division title. So how far away? I got a question. How far away is the Washington Commanders? How far away are they from a defensive championship caliber defense? How far away are the Washington Commanders from a championship caliber defense? Well, they're going to have to shore up their secondary. They're going to have to figure out, like Kendall Fuller, for instance, they play in a zone heavy scheme. He plays 2 positions at the corner position, in the slot and in the outside, And it was evidence last year that Kendall Fuller played better on the outside, though he is showed flashes of greatness in the zone, but he played better on the outside as corner. Um, William Jackson III, that was his first year. He had his ups and downs, like Benjamin St. Just, the rookie. So they're going to have to figure who's playing where, and they're going to have to put the pieces to the puzzle because there's some pieces to the puzzle that are missing. And I believe a lot of it is in the secondary. Um, Linebacking core, Cole Holcomb, um, very good linebacker. Jamin Davis, the rookie from Kentucky, he had his ups and downs last year, mostly downs. You know, getting accustomed to the NFL, the professional level of coming from college. But perhaps this year, maybe they'll find a place for him where he fits in and where he's comfortable. Cole Holcomb last year, he had 142 tackles, 59 solo, 2 interceptions. Um, his second year from North Carolina, he had a heck of a year last year. So hopefully he continues to do the same. I think that they need to find the right piece in that linebacking core next to Cole Holcomb and figure out where they want to put Jamin Davis. Figure out where he feels more comfortable playing. Um, Chase Young was hurt last year, a lot of last year. So, like last year, it was considered a down year for him. He's getting healthier now in the offseason, he's getting stronger. So, to have him back will definitely bolster and strengthen that defensive line. Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, they're fine where they are. I think they're the workhorses of that defensive line, along with Montez Sweat. So if they can get those guys to gel, that front four to gel once again and to stay healthy, I think they will be fine. It was 2 years ago that a lot of people were talking about their defense and how good that the defense was. And last year it was expected to do far above and beyond where they finished. And they didn't meet expectations last year. They didn't come through. To have a championship caliber defense, you have to click on all cylinders: the defensive line, the linebacking core, the secondary, the safeties, the corners. They've got to be good cover men, man to man or zone. Um, they've got to make plays on the ball. They've got to break the ball up. They've got to communicate with one another and stick to their assignments and do their job. That's what a championship caliber defense does. Everybody does their job. They play their part. The defensive tackles, defensive linemen, the edge rushers, they get to the quarterback. They do what they got to do, bounce off blocks, but the last man they want to, the man that they want to get is the quarterback, or they want to meet that running back and stop him or push him back, yards for a loss. But the Washington Commanders are going to have to be more consistent with their pass rush, which they weren't last year because at times they were sporadic, at times it was non existent. They're going to have to rush the quarterback, and I mean, they're going to have to create chaos. They're going to have to create trouble, disruption. They're going to need more of that from that front four this year. Um, Behind that front four, the linebacking core, they've got to fill those gaps and stop the run. They've got to shed blockers and they've got to get to the ball, get to the running back or get to the quarterback. If the edge rushers and the defensive tackles and the defensive linemen don't do it, then they need to fill the gap. They need to be playmakers as well. They need to be able to cover. Their linebackers need to be able to cover tight ends and to cover running backs coming in out of the backfield. They've got to do a better job of stopping the run. The Commanders, when the other team needed a big play last year, they would come through a lot, and the Commanders didn't stop them. And they're going to have to stop the run, and they're going to have to put more pressure on the quarterback. They're going to have to be more persistent when they blitz, and they're going to have to get results. That's the biggest thing. They've got to get results because they last year didn't have that. They gave up 48 touchdowns last year. 34 of them through the air. 34 touchdowns through the air. So, a championship caliber defense. Look at the 1975 Pittsburgh Steelers. What did they have? Let's go back in time. They had all the elements. They had the steel curtain. They had Mean Joe Green, L.C. Greenwood, Ernie Holmes, Dwight White, that front four, very powerful and very impenetrable. That running backs, the opposition's running backs could not break through. They could not shed, they could not stop or block the Steelers to where they were pushing them back. That defensive line was dominant, and they didn't call it the steel curtain for no. It really was a steel curtain. You couldn't run through it. It was impenetrable. They had their linebackers, Andy Russell, Jack Lambert, Jack Ham. Those guys playing behind the defensive against that front, that fearsome front four in Pittsburgh. They were impenetrable on the second level. They were good tacklers. They 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 hustled to the ball. I mean, these guys were like ants on candy. They were there. They were like flies on crap. They were on it. The secondary, um, Mike Wagner, Mel Blunt, very very good hitters in the game. Donnie Shell, um, J.T. Thomas, Tony Dungy, the former Indianapolis coach, Super Bowl winning coach. He was a member of that dominant 70s Steelers teams. And those guys, there were a lot of games that they played. I don't know if it was that season in 75, but there were like I think one season they played in about 9 out of the 16 games I think one year they played, not one team scored more than 6 points in 9 games, not even a touchdown. And they had some shutouts. That's a championship caliber defense. The 1985 Chicago Bears, coached by Buddy Ryan, who had that famed 46 defense. And you had guys like Richard Dent, linebacker Wilbert Marshall, William Refrigerator Perry up the middle, nose tackle. Um, Dan Hampton, Steve McMichael, linebacker Mike Singletary, corners Dave Durson, safety Gary Fensick. I mean, these guys were the epitome of like the 75 Steelers. They were the epitome of a championship caliber defense. The 2000 version of the Baltimore Ravens, another great defense, led by Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Peter Boulware, Tony Saragusa, Chris McAllister, corner, um, Rod Woodson. Go back and look at the 2000 Ravens on YouTube. Go back and look at the 1985 Chicago Bears defense. Go back and look at the 1975, 76, 77 Steelers famed steel curtain defense. Those are definitions of championship caliber defense. And this is what the Commanders need. They need all these pieces and parts put in place. And they all need to gel together. And they all need to do their job. The Commanders' defense last year, there were games where they were horrible in tackling. They were sloppy. You have to have great tacklers. You have to have guys that can shed blockers and get to the running back, or on his way to the running back, he's already hit the quarterback. Secondary, you need guys that can cover their man and that can snap their head back. And when that ball comes, they either intercept it or they knock it down. They need linebackers that can pursue the ball, that can pursue running backs and take them out before they get around the corner for another 5 or 10 yards, or stop them just from getting a yard or two. But they need their defense to have everybody that hones in and attacks the ball and is on it like a beehive on honey. So the Commanders have a lot of work to do as far as defense. And if they want to go to the playoffs and beyond, they're going to have to put some pieces in place. And I could tell you now, the safety position is a position where is of need. The cornerback position is of need. Linebacker and maybe a good backup defensive lineman or two. But there are some holes that they need to fill on defense. And they need to go back and do the things that they did 2 years ago, because they were in the top 10 ranked defense in 2020. There are some things that they need to go back, maybe look at film, make some adjustments, move some people out of the way that don't need to be there, or bring in somebody that can do the job. Okay, they have 17 games next year. The away games for the Washington Commanders, they play the Dallas Cowgirls twice away, but we'll look at the away games. Then the home games, they play Dallas. They play the New York Midget.